ask away. And so I'm in South America. I'm in my little Airbnb. I do this mobility stuff in person when I'm in Kitchener, but I'm trying to keep up
Right.
with it at least somewhat once a week online. So we're going to focus on the hips today. It'll probably be
Oh, good.
20 to 30 minutes. I do have a client in 30, so I can't go over that mark. But yeah, so um, before we get started, make sure you have a nice area where you can sit and you can at least see me
Yep.
somewhat. If you can't
Yep.
see, then just let me know. I'm going to start us off with just some windshield wipers. The reason I like to start off with something like this is I can talk and do this at the same time, and you can listen and do this at the same time. It's super
Right.
easy, super gentle. Um, and again, just like last week, I never know how many people are actually going to sign on or just do the recording later. It was a good time with me and Kayla. And yeah, Kayla, a couple people thought our conversation was interesting last time, so they clearly
Oh yeah, really? We weren't just talking shit the whole time?
no, no. You know what's funny? So I'm on Indeed just because why not? And Limitless Performance came up, and I was going to try to screenshot it and send it to you, but uh, I couldn't re-find it, but I just thought that was funny.
That would be funny.
Yeah, but I'm not necessarily interested in switching gyms
Yeah,
or
that's
working at multiple ones. So I have a pretty decent thing going on at Temple at the moment.
yes. Yeah, you really do. Temple's a good spot.
Yeah, and they let me write my own workouts. That's the other thing. Versus, I don't know if Limitless would have that trust with someone like
No,
me just yet. Uh,
unlikely.
okay, so I'm going to drop my legs to the left. I'm going to reach and rotate with my hand. Just a little bit of thoracic rotation now. This is just slightly more advanced within it. And then we'll get into 90/90s. And yeah, so it should be a nice hip mobility day. No one ever complains about too much hip mobility for the most part.
No. And
No.
if you hear like grunting or groaning, that's just me in pain. So ignore that.
Don't worry,
Same.
don't worry. So, do you have any history of injuries, Heather? Just so I'm aware.
Like all of them.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, just so
I have arthritis. I've dislocated a shoulder. I have right hip issues. I have cervical spine problems. Um, I have sprained my right foot many times in the past. Et cetera, et cetera.
no, no, no worries, no worries. So, next, I'm going to be in my 90/90 position. My knee, hip, shoulder is going to be one straight line. I'm going to roll the hip forward. I'm going to be as tall as I can. I have a 90 degree in my front leg, 90 degree in my back leg. I'm going to push my chest forward, and I'm going to get a good stretch in my front glutes. Then I'm going to drive through my knee, my shin, my foot into the ground, and that's going to create intrinsic tension. I'm going to hold that for 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, and then I'm going to come out of that. I'm going to do 5 reps for 5 seconds. Again, rolling that back hip forward, nice and tall, push chest forward, drive the front leg down as hard as we can for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's 2 down, 3 to go. Count in your own head for the next couple so I can give you a quick recap of what I've also had, just so that you're on the same page. And yeah, I've been doing mobility as a trainer for about 6 years, I want to say now. It's obviously different than yoga when we're trying to create this intrinsic tension. With every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So it's one thing for me to push my chest forward. You can't see it on camera, but I'm actively trying to push into the floor as if there's a force plate underneath my shin here and generating that intrinsic isometric tension. Moving against an immovable object is what we're really trying to do. With every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So that's how we create intrinsic tension, which that tension helps to support our joints. I'm going to move into the other side here. Again, rolling that back hip, being nice and tall, push the chest forward, drive through that front leg for 5, 4, 3, 2, and then coming back up. And then attacking the joint in different angles, whether it's in a stretch position right now, we're going to go into the back hip at some point and do it in a shortened position. So it's a great way to connect to it. These are great warm-up drills. So before heavy squats and deadlifting, I need to prime my hips. Or if I'm doing upper body, because of my history of injuries, I do gentle, just quick hip mobility just as a daily practice, because then it keeps me ready for the next day or the day after. So I've had my right ACL torn and I've had my left hip labrum torn. So I've had to have surgery on both. And then my right ankle, I'm definitely missing a ligament. I probably have mild arthritis in both ankle, knee, and hip. So I totally feel you there. And
Yeah, good times.
yeah, the mobility training really is a good way to address a lot of these imbalances, because for me, it's my right knee, left hip, and based off of surgeries, injuries, movement patterns, I'm not symmetrical. No one's ever symmetrical. So it can be a good way to feel and see how that body is responding to some of these movements. So I want to say that was 4. I lost count because I'm counting. So let's do one more. Yeah. And a good mobility routine doesn't need to take a crazy amount of time. I always suggest doing 2 or 3 of the ones you feel the most beneficial for you, and you can always add 1 or 2. And again, there's never a bad time to do mobility, although I think it's best to just incorporate it into a warm-up routine, which if you're still doing group classes, that can be hard when it's 3 to 5 minutes. Back foot, now in this 90-90 position, I roll. I'm going to actively try to lift the back foot. If I lean forward, I can lift the back foot much more. If I lean back and I try to lift the back foot, it's much less. It's not about how high you can lift it. It's about how much tension you can generate in that hip. If you get a little cramp, you may need to come out of it, give it a quick massage, and then get back in. So roll that back hip forward, be nice and tall. Try not to lean forward. Now, some people can't lift this back foot up. So then I say, okay, lean forward, lift the back foot up, and then slowly try to get tall without letting the foot drop. Or sometimes if I'm there, I'll get, like, you can see how high this foot can lift, but I can't hold it, right? That's how high I can hold it. So I still have tons of mobility to work on in my internal rotation, which is where I struggle a lot. I'm sure you're feeling that in that back hip pocket area. Yeah.
Does it matter if your foot's flexed or pointed?
It probably does, but I actually don't know how to answer that. So I'm just going to say, as long as it's even on both sides. If it's this, I think for me it's flexed. I don't think I do it pointed, but at the same time, if it's pointed a minor amount or if it's flexed a lot, I would say feel it, whatever feels better for you. As much of an unprofessional answer that is, that's probably the truth.
No, it's just because with my competitive gymnastics background, my toes automatically point. So I'm like, should I be focusing on flexing my foot, or can I leave my foot pointed?
So I switched
what it wants to do.
I switched the other side. Why don't you try it flexed 1 rep? Try it pointed 1 rep. Whichever one is harder might make a difference. And then I would say at the same time, I probably do it flexed because that's going to be more realistic to everyday life. Yeah. So that's, again, it's a good question. I've never actually been asked that question in like 5 years of teaching the 90-90. So.
Leave it to Heather.
No, it's good. It's a good question. It's a good question. And so here's the other way to answer it. There's never a black and white answer for the most part, because maybe in gymnastics, that positioning actually might transfer more into gymnastics. Here's a really, really fun fact about me that not a lot of people know. Well, some people know. I actually used to do pole dancing just for shits and giggles for like 6 months.
Wow.
Why am I not surprised?
And I took lessons when I was 23. This is pre-hip surgery, because I was like, dance classes would actually help with my hip mobility. Why don't I take a class just for fun and learn some hip mobility? And I had just become a trainer. I'm going to get a pillow for my knee for the next exercise. You might need one. I'm just on tile. I'll continue the fun pole dancing story. So in pole dancing, just like gymnastics, you have to have your toes pointed, right? And so, I'm putting the pillow on my knee because I don't want to have my knee on hard tile. This is just called a half kneeling groin position. I'm going to show what my leg does from here. If my foot is underneath like this, that's fine. If my foot is flat, that's also fine. I like my toes underneath personally, because then I get extra little bit of toe mobility. And so I get a nice stretch in the arch of my foot, which today I'm at 13,000 steps. So it's not a crazy amount. You could be beating me. I know I have a mild cold, so I'm trying to take it easy.
Oh, you
Um,
sissy.
I know. So I'm just rocking gently back and forth. Nice and easy, getting a good stretch through that groin, which is pretty tight on most people. Again, this can bridge into more intense, but I'm just trying to prep the body here. Again, nice and easy, rocking back and forth. But yeah, so pole dancing was fun. And here's another fun fact. Are you guys familiar with the bar fills?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So when I took the lessons, this is just before COVID, so I would have been like 20, 23, 24, and I wanted to show off, I switched sides, by the way. I wanted to show off my dance skills, and so
Oh my God.
I got a lot of free drinks from the ladies at Phil's with my pole dancing, which was an investment in itself. I did not expect that, but nobody else could touch me on the pole. B, I got kicked out of Phil's because I went inverted and did like the spiral.
Oh no.
So, yeah.
I've been kicked out of Phil's for different purposes.
Yeah, of course. I'm probably the only guy to ever get kicked out for pole dancing too good. So
Incredible.
I bet they still talk about you.
Yeah, what a visual.
my buddy was the bouncer, and he heard about it, and he still teases me a little bit about it. So I don't see him that often, but he's a power lifter guy. So yeah. Okay, I'm going to go back to the original side. This is where we're going to add a little bit of thoracic rotation in with the leg in this position. So I'm not rocking right now. Hand goes behind the neck. I'm going to dip down as much as I can, and then I'm going to reach, rotate, and open up. So even though it's hip, getting the thoracic to rotate with the hip can be nice. As you dip down, you'll almost get a little bit more of a stretch in that groin too anyway, and then lift, reach, and rotate. So we're going to do that 5 times. I'm dipping down as far as I can, lifting, rotating, and opening up, driving the shoulder, driving the elbow, dip, 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 reach, rotate, open up, open up, open up, open up, open up. We're going to do 2 more. Dip, 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 reach, open up, open up, open up, and 1 more. As much as we can one way, and then as much as we can the other way. Again, your hips still are connected to your spine, so sometimes your upper spine can be off, which throws off your hips. We're doing the other side now. Or your hips are off, and that can affect the upper back and spine. So this is kind of a nice 2 for 1 at the same time. Dip, 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 dip. Reach, rotate, drive that elbow, drive that shoulder, rotate that spine. We're going to do 3 more on this side. Lift, 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 reach, 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 open up, open up, open up. 2 more, dip, 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 reach, 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 open up, open up, open up. 1 more, dip, 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 reach, 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 open up, and open up. All right, after that one, just take a small breather. I need a sip of water.
Whew.
I know. It should feel pretty
Everything
decent.
hurts.
Yeah, in a good way, I hope.
Well, so my problem with the gymnastics background is that I have hypermobility. So when people are like, "Oh, you should feel the stretch here," I don't.
Okay, so
But because of what I do for a living, my body like seizes up. Hence why I'm here.
what do you do for a living?
I run a horse barn, a show barn.
Okay. So
I'm
not that
on
this.
my feet all day. Like I'm at like 17,000 steps.
Yeah.
Which is like low for you.
Which is really low for me. Come summertime, it'll be like 24,000 steps. So my body seizes up because what I do every day is very repetitive. So my back and my hips and my quads get very like tight in that position.
Yep.
So, but then I have hypermobility, so I'm like I don't feel that stretch where I should.
And so for you, it actually the way I like to try to teach mobility, it's mobility being synergistic with stability, and so stability training is good for hypermobility, shortening the range of motion and holding positions to get your brain to understand where it's safe in these said positions. So because you said that, I'm actually going to go through a glute bridge. So just for fun, I want you to do a glute bridge. Focus on where you feel any tension on a squeeze. Most people, when they do a glute bridge, they just lift and they actually extend into the low back. They don't necessarily know how to set their body up properly. Now, sometimes this is also where, even though the 90-90 drill, that might seem like mobility, it's also stability in the hip, especially with the squeeze. So even though you didn't feel the stretch, you probably felt the squeeze in the hip.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Yeah.
focusing on that area actually might be more beneficial. With my low back here, I'm actually going to rotate my pelvis underneath. I'm going to pull my pelvis to my rib cage to my pelvis, and draw my belly button in. Even though you can't feel this, when my bicep squeezes, my tricep has to stretch. That's just a law. Because if my tricep doesn't stretch, my bicep can't squeeze. When I tuck my tailbone and I brace my core, which my core pulls my pelvis to rib cage to pelvis, my low back is the opposite. So it has to stretch even gently. I don't feel a stretch. I know it's stretching. And so a lot of people ask for stretches in their tight low back, when in reality, it's strengthening the core properly. So I'm going to do my pelvic tilt first, brace my core. Toes are going to be up, even though you might not be able to see it on camera the best. I'm going to drive through my heels to squeeze my glutes, knees, hips, shoulders. Now, notice I'm not actually lifting a crazy amount. Before, I'm just lifting as high as I can. Versus I tuck and I lift, and I focus on my butt cheeks squeezing together. And you should feel the glutes have to turn on a lot more. Do you feel that?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And then just coming back down, right? So we're going to hold the squeeze for 5 to 10 seconds, right? Tuck the tailbone, brace that core, drive through those heels, squeeze the glutes, squeeze. 5, 4, 3, 2, and down. Even though this might not seem like mobility, it's stability. And my definition of mobility is actually having control within a range of motion. Hypermobility does a disservice to what you have. It's actually more lack of stability, in my opinion. I don't know if that makes sense.
100%.
Right? And so when people say, oh, I do mobility training, and then they say they do yoga, I'm like, well, you actually stretch. That's flexibility. That's also does a disservice to mobility. And so the irony is I teach mobility. I'm not actually that flexible, but I have really good control of my ranges of motion. So there's that weird kind of irony to it, right? Mobility focuses on movement, and within movement, you have to have stability. Flexibility just is seeing how flexible a muscle is. That can be governed actually from the central nervous system. If you're very relaxed, you're more flexible. That's why hot yoga is good. That's why when you're in the heat, it's going to be good. It's also why if you get put with a sedative, you're more flexible. So, yeah. Bark. Yeah. All right. So take a small breather from that. So I know that that's a lot of information all at once.
Is it normal to feel a stretch in that glute bridge, like on the front of my hip?
Yeah, because that's going to be your hip flexor. Your hip flexor and low back work together. Your core and your glutes work together. So when I squeeze my glute, the opposite is the hip flexor. So that's actually a good thing. Again, especially with someone like you who's saying you have a hard time. I'm actually going to get my pillow again. I'm going to do one more thing for sure. Telling me that you have a hard time sort of feeling it. So I got one more at least major thing, and then I'll check on the time. So this is going to be connecting the foot and glute together. Sometimes people also have a hard time with this. And so I'm just going to demonstrate what's called the short foot. Again, this is stability in the foot. The other thing about mobility and stability, your toes have to have mobility, foot has to have stability, ankle needs mobility, knee needs stability, hips need mobility, low back needs stability. And so when things are out of whack, then the whole system starts to collapse. A lot of people get knee pain, either lack of ankle mobility or lack of foot stability. So if my ankle collapses in here, right, you can see how my foot's collapsing, my knee caves in, and then the inside of my knee starts to get potential wear and tear. The IT band takes extra stress, so people end up with that knee pain. What I'm going to do here, do you see the small arch of my foot actually get a little bit bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller? That's called the short foot. And so funny enough, in the walking challenge, I'm actually going to do a mobility walking and doing some of this stuff. So it's good practice for me to talk about it. Anyway, the balls of the foot, we're going to pull to the heel, and I'm going to be able to lift up my arch. Most people have a hard time doing that to begin with. Then what I'm going to do while I'm doing that, I'm just going to pull my knee out slightly using my glute, almost like a kneeling clamshell. And so I take my hand, I put it on my glute, I feel the glute contract while I'm focused on the arch of the foot. I'm not trying to curl my toes underneath. I'm just trying to focus on the balls of the foot and pulling the knee out. I'm going to hold that position for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then down in. So neurons that fire together wire together. And if your foot and glute are wiring together, imagine now this in a lunge position where I can actually come up and down, and I have that stability where I don't have any of that wobbliness, whether it's a glute or a squat, a lunge, walking. So again, that's a good example of stability, strengthening the hip and foot to apply stability into the knee. My knee's not going anywhere. If I don't have that, I can pull it in and out so much easier. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, sort of, but like it's firing out my hamstring.
Yeah, I can see that a little bit. Your hamstring might be extending the hip. And how would I word it? Sometimes it takes a bit to pattern it. Sometimes people can still have a big glute muscle, but their hamstring has compensated for the glute because the hamstrings also do hips forward. So you might be pushing your hip a little bit forward in sort of this position while you're doing it. I wouldn't be as concerned about that. Your glutes and hamstrings do typically work synergistically together. For example, in a glute bridge, your hamstrings still have to work. And I would also rather people be hamstring dominant than quad dominant. So I'm not as worried about that. Sometimes it takes a while. If I was there, I'd be pushing your knee in. So the other thing you can do is have one hand on your glute, or actually put one hand on your knee here and push your knee against the hand and try to pull your hand on your knee while doing that. Once you kind of get that, you can put your hand on your butt and try to feel that butt squeeze. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So again, it's different virtual than in person, but that's one aspect of it. So you can do one more, and then just for fun, I'll give you guys a very quick hip flexor stretch, and then I gotta get ready for my next goal. All right. So from this position, if I just push my hips forward, I get very little stretch here. If I tuck the tailbone, just like I did in that glute bridge, and I squeeze my butt and I push my hip forward, I'm gonna get a way nicer stretch in that hip flexor. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we can just come out of it. So again, that's just a good way to kind of show how synergistic the body has to be. Details. There's always these little tiny details. So again, pushing hips forward, get a nice stretch, and then coming out. We'll do that one more time. I'm just going to work my way in and out 3 times here. I want to give myself a good 5 minutes to get ready for my next call. I'm going to be doing these things weekly, probably this time for the next week or two. So you're more than welcome to join. And I'm doing a walking challenge, and the walking challenge starts in March. So I'm going to at least tailor the first week or two to the walking challenge. And then that way, either people who can do it, great, or people can watch it later. I have lacrosse ball, so I can work on the foot and ankle stuff. I can work on hip stuff. There's even one time I'm going to try to do kind of a little bit on walking, although my Airbnb is small here. Might have to make a pre-made video. If you're not in the walking challenge group, Kayla will add you. So, yeah.
Is it normal for one side for that stretch to hurt more than the other?
Hurt or be tighter. It's normal to
tighter,
be. It's normal to be imbalanced, especially the older you've got sports. Again, nobody is perfectly symmetrical. Even, this is just a fun fact, even one lung is bigger than the other lung. So then the diaphragm sits lower. You're right-handed. You're left-handed. Right, and so it's normal. But it's also good to try to get it to be symmetrical, but you don't need to be obsessed where that's the only focus. But it does make sense to maybe spend one extra rep or more intensity on the side that's a bit tighter. That's another way I would word it. So I'm ending the recording.